It was a quiet afternoon in the small, cozy house where Anna and her mother, Sarah, spent most of their time together. The sun streamed through the windows, casting a warm glow on the living room. Anna, a bright-eyed little girl with curly hair and an ever-present smile, was sitting on the couch, playing with her toys. Sarah, her mother, was in the kitchen, preparing dinner, humming softly to herself. It was one of those peaceful, ordinary days that had no sense of anything out of the ordinary. Anna had been thinking about something all day, a question that had been swirling in her mind for a while now. She loved her mother dearly and trusted her with everything. But there was something that felt incomplete, something that didn't quite add up in the stories Sarah had told her. Anna had an older brother, or at least she thought she did. But in all her 6 years, she had never met him. Sarah had always told her that he was away or busy with something important, but Anna couldn't help but wonder, why had she never seen him? Why didn't he ever visit? As Anna sat there, her small hands clutching a teddy bear, she mustered the courage to ask the question that had been tugging at her heart. With a look of determination on her innocent face, she called out to her mother, "Mom, can my brother come visit us?" The question was simple, yet it carried with it a weight that neither Anna nor Sarah fully understood. Anna had no idea that her words would set off a chain of events that would change everything. She had asked the question just as casually as any other child would ask for a playdate or a visit from a friend. But Sarah, upon hearing it, froze. Sarah was in the kitchen, chopping vegetables, when she heard her daughter's voice. The words hit her like a thunderclap, causing her hands to tremble and the knife to momentarily pause in midair. For a brief moment, the room felt like it had gone silent, despite the sounds of everyday life continuing around them. The air seemed thicker, heavier, as if the question had unearthed something buried deep inside Sarah's heart. Anna's question had been so innocent, so pure in its simplicity that Sarah didn't know how to respond. Her daughter had no idea of the secret that Sarah had kept hidden for years, a secret that now, in this very moment, seemed impossible to protect any longer. Sarah turned away, hoping that Anna wouldn't notice the sudden change in her expression. But Anna was too sharp, too perceptive for her age. She could sense that something was wrong. Sarah forced a smile and turned to face her daughter, trying to mask the sudden surge of emotions that threatened to overwhelm her. "Sweetheart," she said, her voice trembling just slightly, "why do you ask about your brother?" Anna tilted her head, noticing the subtle shift in her mother's demeanor. "I've been thinking about him a lot lately," Anna replied, her voice soft and full of hope. "Why doesn't he come to visit us? I want to meet him. Will he come soon?" Sarah's heart tightened at the mention of her son. The pain of keeping that secret, of hiding the truth for so long, seemed to surge back with a force she hadn't anticipated. Her mind raced, searching for the right words, any words that could offer Anna the answers she was seeking without revealing the painful truth. But as she looked into her daughter's wide, trusting eyes, she realized that there were no easy answers. For a moment, Sarah felt like she was standing on the edge of a precipice, teetering between the past and the future. She could feel the weight of the years, the burden of the secret that had kept her isolated, both from her daughter and the world. The lie she had lived with for so long was starting to unravel, and Anna's innocent question was the spark that had ignited the flame. As Sarah opened her mouth to speak, the words caught in her throat. She wanted to tell Anna the truth, to explain everything, but the words felt like they would tear the delicate fabric of their world apart. How could she explain something so painful, so life-altering, to her sweet little girl? Anna waited patiently, her small hands folded in her lap, her gaze never leaving her mother's face. She didn't understand the heaviness in the room, the tension that had suddenly filled the space between them. All she knew was that she wanted to meet her brother. She didn't understand why she had never seen him, why he never visited. She just wanted to know when he would come. The silence in the room was thick and suffocating, as if the weight of Sarah's unspoken words hung in the air like a heavy cloud. Sarah closed her eyes for a brief moment, trying to steady herself. She could feel the tears threatening to spill, but she held them back, unwilling to let her daughter see the depth of her pain. With a soft sigh, Sarah finally spoke. "Anna, sweetheart," she began, her voice soft and broken. "There's something I need to tell you." The question Anna had asked lingered in the air like a weight Sarah could not shake off. It was as though the room had transformed, the walls pressing in around her, making it harder to breathe. She stood still in the kitchen, gripping the edge of the counter, trying to steady herself. Her hands, once calm and confident in their movements, now trembled slightly as they rested on the cool surface. Every detail seemed sharper now. The sound of Anna's soft footsteps approaching, the soft hum of the refrigerator in the background, and the quiet thudding of Sarah's own heartbeat in her chest. All of these sensations felt exaggerated, heightened by the storm of emotions raging inside her. Anna, on the other hand, was blissfully unaware of her mother's inner turmoil. She sat patiently on the couch, her hands folded neatly in her lap, her eyes still sparkling with the innocent hope of a child who believed everything could be explained with a simple answer. The hope in her eyes cut through Sarah like a knife. How could she explain the unexplainable to her little girl? How could she unravel the tangled web of lies and secrets she had spun to protect her daughter's heart? For a moment, Sarah debated whether to deflect the question, to give Anna some vague answer, and continue to hide the truth for just a little while longer. Maybe she could distract her with another story, shift her focus to something else. But deep down, Sarah knew that wasn't the right thing to do. She knew that eventually, Anna would have to know the truth. The weight of that truth was so heavy, so unbearable, but it was also undeniable. It had to come out sooner or later. "Sweetheart," Sarah finally said, her voice quieter than usual, almost breaking. She turned to face Anna, her face pale, her eyes clouded with uncertainty. She could feel the tension in her own shoulders, the tightness in her chest, as though the very air around her had thickened. Anna tilted her head slightly, noticing the subtle change in her mother's demeanor. There was something in the way Sarah was looking at her, a hesitation, a vulnerability that Anna had never seen before. It made her frown slightly, her small brow furrowing with concern. She could sense that something wasn't right, but she didn't fully understand what it was. All she knew was that she wanted to meet her brother, and her mother's odd behavior only made her more determined to get an answer. Sarah's breath hitched as she tried to gather her thoughts. Her eyes flicked nervously to the floor, then back up to Anna, who was looking up at her with such innocent trust. It was in that moment that Sarah realized how much her daughter had grown, how much she had missed in keeping the truth hidden from her for so long. Sarah opened her mouth again, but this time, words failed her. She struggled to speak, her throat tight as though something was choking her from the inside. The truth, the raw, painful truth, was difficult to face. But it wasn't just difficult for her. It was difficult for Anna too. How could she tell her daughter that the brother she had been asking about, the brother she so desperately wanted to meet, had never existed? How could she explain that the mother she had trusted, the one who had always kept her safe, was now the one who had kept the most painful secret of all? After what seemed like an eternity, Sarah finally found her voice. "Anna," she began softly, her words coming out slower than she intended. "Your brother. He's not coming to visit. You've never met him because—" She paused, swallowing hard, as though the words themselves were too painful to let go of. "Because you don't have a brother, sweetheart." The words hung in the air, heavy and cold. Anna blinked, her small face scrunching in confusion. She had asked her mother about her brother because she had believed, with all the innocence of a child, that he was real. He had to be real, didn't he? She had heard so many stories about him, seen pictures of a boy who was supposed to be her brother, and yet, here was her mother telling her that it wasn't true. She didn't have a brother. Anna couldn't quite grasp what her mother was saying. It didn't make sense. How could she not have a brother? But I remember him, Mom," Anna said, her voice trembling with uncertainty. "I've seen him in pictures, and you've talked about him before. How can I not have a brother?" Sarah closed her eyes for a moment, trying to calm the storm inside her, but it was no use. The floodgates had opened, and the truth had spilled out. "It's not what you think, Anna," Sarah said, her voice breaking. "I never wanted to hurt you. I thought it would be easier this way. I never wanted you to know the truth, but now you need to understand." Anna's face twisted with confusion and hurt. Her mind was racing, trying to make sense of the pieces that weren't fitting together. "But why, Mom? Why didn't you tell me?" Sarah's chest tightened with the weight of the guilt she had carried for so many years. She knew that this moment would come, that Anna would eventually question the absence of her brother, but it had never seemed real until now. She had hoped, for so long, that she could protect Anna from the painful truth, but now she realized that she had to face it, just like her daughter. "I didn't want to hurt you, Anna," Sarah whispered. "I didn't want you to know that your brother was never here. I wanted to protect you from that pain." Anna sat still, her wide eyes full of disbelief. It was hard for her to comprehend the enormity of the secret that had just been revealed. She had believed without question that her family was like everyone else's, complete with a brother to love and cherish. But now, everything felt different. The world she knew was shifting beneath her feet, and she didn't know how to stand on it anymore. For a moment, the silence stretched out between them, thick and uncomfortable. Anna didn't know what to say. She didn't know how to process the truth that had just shattered everything she believed. And Sarah, her mother, stood there, her heart breaking for the pain she had caused, knowing that she could never take back the years of silence, the years of lies. The room felt suffocating as the silence stretched on. Sarah stood still, her eyes not meeting her daughter's. The weight of the truth hung heavy between them, an invisible force that seemed to pull the air from the room. Anna sat on the couch, her small hands trembling in her lap as she tried to process the unimaginable. She had asked a simple question, expecting an answer, but instead, her whole world had been turned upside down. Her mother had just told her that she didn't have a brother, and for a moment, it felt like the ground beneath her feet was slipping away. Anna's heart raced as her mind tried to make sense of the words. But you told me stories about him," Anna whispered, her voice small and fragile. "You said he was busy, that he couldn't come. I saw his picture, Mom. How can you say I don't have a brother?" Sarah closed her eyes, the pain of her daughter's confusion tearing at her. This was the moment Sarah had feared, the moment when the truth would finally come out, the moment when Anna would have to face the painful reality that the brother she had believed in, the brother she had imagined in her thoughts, was never real. It had always been a lie that Sarah had kept hidden to protect her daughter. But now, there was no escaping it. "Anna," Sarah said, her voice trembling, "I know this is hard to understand. I never wanted to hurt you, but it's time for you to know the truth." Anna's face was full of disbelief, her eyes wide with confusion. "How can it be true, Mom? You told me so many times about him. I've seen his picture. I remember the stories. How can you say it's not real?" Sarah felt the lump in her throat grow larger as she fought to find the words. How could she explain something so painful to her innocent little girl? How could she tell Anna that everything she had believed for years was nothing but a lie? How could she possibly explain why she had kept this secret for so long? She sat down beside Anna, her eyes filled with sorrow. "Anna, sweetheart, I didn't want to tell you this, but your brother was never real. There was no boy, no brother. I created the stories, I showed you the picture, and I told you about him. All of it was a lie. I did it because I thought it would be easier for you to grow up without knowing the truth." Anna's face crumpled as the words sank in. She stared at her mother, her small hands clenching into fists in her lap. "Why, Mom? Why would you do that? Why would you lie to me? I don't understand." Tears welled up in Sarah's eyes as she gently took Anna's hands in hers. She had never felt more helpless, more broken than in this moment. "I didn't want to hurt you, Anna. I thought that if I gave you a brother, if I told you stories and showed you pictures, it would make you happy. I didn't want you to feel like something was missing. I wanted to protect you from the pain of knowing that our family, was different. I didn't want you to feel alone. Anna's eyes were filled with confusion and hurt. But I wasn't alone, Mom. I had you. I always had you. Why couldn't you tell me the truth? Sarah took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. I was afraid, Anna. Afraid that you would feel like something was wrong with us. Afraid that you would feel incomplete without a brother. I didn't want you to feel like I wasn't enough for you. So I created this story. But now, it's time for you to know the truth. It was wrong of me to keep this from you. Anna's heart felt as though it had been torn open. She couldn't understand. How could her mother have done this to her? How could she have lied for so long, all in the name of protecting her? The truth, as it was, felt like a heavy burden, one that Anna didn't know how to carry. Her world, once so simple and safe, was now filled with uncertainty and confusion. Tears slipped down Anna's cheeks as she looked up at her mother, her voice shaking with emotion. I don't understand, Mom. How could you keep this from me? How could you lie to me all these years? I thought I had a brother, Mom. I wanted to meet him. I wanted to have a family, like everyone else. Sarah reached out and pulled Anna into a tight embrace, holding her close as her own tears fell freely. I'm so sorry, Anna, Sarah whispered, her voice full of guilt and regret. I never wanted to hurt you. I thought I was doing the right thing. But I see now that I was wrong. I see now that I should have trusted you with the truth, no matter how difficult it was. You deserved to know, and I should have been honest with you from the beginning. Anna didn't say anything at first. She just let herself be held by her mother, the only person she had ever trusted, the one person who had always been there for her. But now, even her mother's embrace couldn't ease the pain in her heart. The truth was too much to bear, and she didn't know how to process it. She didn't know how to move forward from this moment, how to piece together the shattered image of her family. After a long silence, Anna finally spoke again, her voice quieter this time. But why didn't you tell me before, Mom? Why didn't you tell me when I was younger? Sarah paused, her chest tightening at the question. I thought you wouldn't understand. I thought you were too young to grasp the truth. I thought I could protect you from the hurt, from the loneliness that I felt when I was growing up. I didn't want you to carry that pain. Anna pulled away slightly, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. I don't want to carry that pain either, Mom. But I need to know the truth. I need to understand why you did this. Sarah looked into Anna's eyes, her heart heavy with the weight of the secrets she had kept. I'll tell you everything, Anna. I promise. I'll tell you why I did it, and I'll help you understand. We'll get through this together. But you have to know, the truth is painful. It's a hard thing to face, but it's the only way forward. Anna nodded, wiping away the last of her tears. I want to know the truth, Mom. I need to know. The days that followed were filled with silence, as though the entire world was holding its breath. Anna, her face still blotchy from the tears, sat quietly in the living room, her mind heavy with the truth her mother had shared. Her world had been shattered in an instant, and now every corner of their home seemed unfamiliar. The toys that used to bring her so much joy felt like relics of a past she could no longer touch. The picture frames on the walls, once filled with family snapshots, now looked like distant memories, as though they belonged to someone else's life. Sarah, too, felt the weight of the secret she had kept for so long. She walked through the house with a sense of emptiness, unsure of what to say or do next. Her heart ached for the pain she had caused Anna. She had thought that protecting her from the truth would make things easier, but now she realized that honesty was the only way to move forward. As she glanced at her daughter, sitting so quietly on the couch, Sarah knew that they could no longer live in the shadow of the past. They had to find a way to rebuild, to find a new path together. The conversation that had unfolded weeks earlier had left a deep mark on both of them, but it had also opened a door. Sarah had shared her story, her fears, and the painful choices she had made in the name of protecting her daughter. Anna had listened, her heart still raw from the truth, but in her eyes, Sarah saw something new, a willingness to understand, to forgive, and to move forward. It wasn't easy, but Sarah could see that Anna was beginning to heal, even if just a little at a time. One evening, as the sky turned a soft orange, Sarah and Anna sat together in the kitchen, the sounds of dinner preparations filling the air. It had become a small tradition in their home. These moments spent together, side by side. They no longer spoke of the brother who had never existed, but the silence between them was no longer heavy with secrets. It was simply a quiet understanding that they had both been through something difficult, something life-altering, and now they could share the same space without fear. As Sarah stirred the pot on the stove, she glanced at Anna, who was quietly setting the table. Her daughter's face, though still soft with the remnants of sorrow, now carried a glimmer of hope, a sense of peace that hadn't been there before. It was as though, in sharing the truth, they had released something that had been binding them for so long. They were no longer living in the past, but in the present, building something new. Mom. Anna's voice was soft, hesitant, as if she wasn't sure how to approach the topic they had avoided for days. Yes, sweetheart. Sarah turned to face her, wiping her hands on the dish towel. Anna looked down at her hands, her voice trembling slightly as she spoke. Do you think we can be okay, even without him? Sarah felt her heart swell with emotion. She had feared that Anna's heart would remain broken, that the hole left by the absence of a brother would always linger. But now, hearing her daughter's question, Sarah realized that healing didn't mean forgetting. It meant moving forward, together. Yes, Anna, Sarah said, her voice full of warmth and conviction. We will be okay. We've always been okay, just the two of us. And we always will be. Anna smiled, a small, tentative smile, as if she was unsure but willing to believe her mother. I guess we have each other, right? Exactly, Sarah said, pulling her into a tight hug. That's all we really need. You and me. In the days that followed, the quiet house began to feel full again. The weight of the secret had lifted, and though there were still moments of sadness and confusion, they were no longer overshadowing everything. Anna slowly began to let go of the lingering resentment she had carried, the questions that had kept her up at night. She understood that her mother's choices had come from a place of love, even if they had been misguided. Sarah, too, began to feel a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. For the first time, she allowed herself to grieve the loss of the dream she had once held for her family, a dream that no longer fit the reality they shared. She had always thought that a family was defined by the people in it, by the roles they played. But now, Sarah knew that a family was not built on a lie. It was built on love, trust, and the willingness to face the truth, no matter how hard it was. One afternoon, a few weeks later, Sarah took Anna's hand as they walked to the park. It was a simple moment, but it felt monumental to Sarah. It was the first time since the truth had come out that they had done something without the cloud of guilt hanging over them. The sun was shining brightly, and the air smelled fresh with the promise of a new beginning. Anna ran ahead, her laughter filling the air, and Sarah watched her, her heart swelling with pride. The truth had been painful, but it had also been liberating. Anna and Sarah were no longer bound by the weight of the past. They had faced it together, and in doing so, they had created a new bond, one that was stronger than ever before. The secret that had once threatened to tear them apart had now become the catalyst for their healing. It was a painful chapter in their lives, but it was also the beginning of something better, a future filled with honesty, love, and understanding. As they walked hand in hand, Sarah knew that whatever the future held, they would face it together. No matter what came their way, they had each other. And that was all they needed. The past was behind them, and the future, though uncertain, was filled with endless possibilities. Together, they could create a new beginning, one step at a time.